Hello everyone, my name is Pixlriffs and welcome back to the Minecraft Survival Guide. I hope you guys are having a good day. We are back here at the Jungle Temple that I rebuilt, redesigned, completely reimagined in a previous episode, and as promised, today we are going to turn this thing into a trap-filled nightmare. Actually, it's not going to be that bad. I'm thinking what we might do instead of making it a bunch of traps is make it into more of a kind of minigame of sorts, sort of the same way that we do with the regular jungle temples, where there are just a couple of switches to flip, a couple of non-lethal traps in the walls here and there. Because I imagine a lot of you folks might be keen on, trying to trap your server mates if you play on multiplayer servers, or design some devious maps with, places you can fall into lava and things like that. But this is my single-player survival world, and I don't really feel like designing anything that's going to kill me and then demonstrating it on camera. Instead, what I think we're going to do is maybe a couple of interesting little tricky sections where there's a puzzle that we can solve or something like that. And I'll take you through step by step how I'm imagining this as a kind of minigame experience, I suppose. So the first thing is we're actually going to block off a bunch of the entrances on the lower levels of the temple. I have done this already with a couple of these ones on the inside. As we go in here, you'll see that I've got a couple of floors in here now, so that there are individual chambers at least 3 blocks high that we can build some stuff out into. But then I blocked off the entrances on these sides. I'm going to do this one at the back, and I'm actually going to do this one here as well, because the way I want people to enter this temple is actually on the upper level. Now, you might be wondering how exactly we're going to get there when the staircase is split and there is this giant wall around that area of it. But what I think we can do is add in some little areas like this where we can use the structure to our advantage. We can see where some of these pillars might have broken down, and there are a few things to indicate that it's broken, like the cracked stone bricks, which is why I wasn't using them elsewhere in the build, and then a couple of stone buttons to represent little kind of chips of the stone that have fallen off when this thing fell. And that actually provides us with a fairly neat little staircase, which we can use to hop up onto this section and continue up to the actual entrance to the temple, which is going to be right here at the top. And there is another level above this, which we're going to use for something completely different. But here, I think, is going to be a kind of pedestal that will have an indication of how far through the minigame the players are. And I've got a couple of fun ideas for this that I think we will give a go. Let me just grab a couple more of these stone bricks and stone brick stairs. We'll maybe use some chiseled stone brick as well, and we'll hop back into that top area, because what I want to do is make a giant podium of sorts in the center of the room, which is going to have 4 sections of it lit up using fire. And we want to make sure it's kind of in the center of the room, which I guess is going to be a 5x5 area here, like so. Is that 5 blocks 5? Yeah, I think that is, and that should meet up with all of the entrances on each of these sides here. And then I guess what we're going to do, we'll light this up in the meantime just so we don't get any mobs spawning in here. We're going to have fires lit maybe, I guess, there, and there. And I wonder if we can do that with dispensers facing upwards containing flint and steel, because if we do that, then of course we can have that activated by redstone power when we complete certain sections of the puzzle. Alright, so I went away and got a couple of supplies. We're going to stick a couple more dispensers in these 2 spaces here, and here is the big question: can you put a dispenser with a flint and steel in it on fire like this? You can. Okay, perfect. So that's going to work out really well for what I have planned here. The idea is that players will have to explore this jungle temple, complete a few small tasks, and each of those tasks will light one of the fires around a central monument here. And what we're going to do is we're going to have a couple of, let's say, stone bricks or something like that built up around the center here. We're going to have these attached to sticky pistons, which are only going to be activated when all 4 of the fires around them are lit, and when that happens, all of the blocks around this will retract, and in the center we could have a reward of sorts for the player, maybe a diamond block or a gold block or something like that. The treasure of this temple could be stored basically on the inside. Could just easily be a chest or a shulker box or anything like that that you want. It could even be a punishment for the players for having transgressed and found themselves working their way through the temple. It could be like lava is stored in here or something like that, if you just want to troll your players a little bit. But I think we could do something really cool with that idea, and each of these is going to be wired up to something elsewhere in the temple on the lower floors that is going to be a challenge that the players have to solve, right? So basically, it's a minigame with 4 objectives leading up to a reward in the center. Seems like fun. Just so players don't end up bypassing this by, activating the dispensers using something else, which would ultimately break the puzzle, because the idea is that we're going to have something else hooked up underneath the dispenser that's going to be powering the sticky pistons, or some sort of AND gate that's going to be adding all of the redstone wiring together to move the sticky pistons. We want to make sure that they have some blocks around here that are going to prevent them from just putting a button down, say, on the nearest block and pressing it to activate some of the dispensers, right? Because that ruins the point of the puzzle. So I think stylizing the podium here a little bit, stylizing this so that it has stairs around the outside, makes a little bit of sense. We could even potentially have some other blocks around here to make it look like, this is an area that you shouldn't touch. We could put glass around the outside if you want to, but I feel like glass doesn't quite work for the surroundings here. I'll put some mossy bricks here and there as well, and we could do something else with the floor to make sure it doesn't look so plain and stony, but the idea is that the player is going to be drawn to stuff that is a little bit more detailed. So maybe we want to just leave the floor to be a little bit plain, or potentially the floor could kind of give the player an idea of where to go if we make a path around the jungle temple out of something different, like a different type of material, maybe andesite, or maybe, some grass path that we can bring in from the outside or something like that, as though these paths have been trodden before. But this is a large structure and kind of a large task for us to get on with, so I think I'm going to spend a little bit more time working on the layout of this place off camera, and I'll do my best to explain it once we get back and we can go over the layout of the place, and then we can start figuring out where some of the traps and puzzles are going to go. This is going to be a fun project though. Hope you guys are psyched for it. I will do some layout work off camera and I'll be back with you guys in just a few seconds. Hey folks, welcome back. So my inventory is a complete mess right now. Try and ignore that for a second. Instead, I'm going to show you the work I have been doing on this here jungle temple, because I have been a little bit busy. I still have a lot of work to do, and I still have a bunch of stuff I want to get done in the interior as far as the challenges go. But right here in the center, give or take a couple of blocks, which I still need to replace there we go, we have a monument of sorts. This is going to be actually kind of cool, and I've been working on the redstone behind the scenes to get this to work. So if I take you guys down here and through the wall, kind of ignoring all of the stuff that I still need to do here, we have a little monument where inside here, the redstone is actually fairly simple, despite appearances, for those of you who may not be all that keen on doing redstone stuff. So those observers right there are underneath the dispensers that are on the top level, which are going to be dispensing the flames. They've each got a flint and steel inside, and that's what's going to be setting things on fire. Now, bear in mind, of course, I do have fire spread turned off in this world, which is what allows the dispensers to remain alight. If you don't have fire spread disabled, then they will turn off occasionally. Like the fires will just go out after a while, unless it's lighting a fire on something that burns indefinitely, like netherrack, or I think soul sand and soul soil do this in the new nether update when that's coming out. Anyway, going back to what I've got here, this section here actually sets up a redstone signal that will trigger this block here. This block here has a redstone torch on top of it, which is currently extending all of the sticky pistons around it, which have the what are they called? The chiseled stone bricks attached to them on the room above. And each time we complete one of the challenges, we are going to be triggering this tower of observers and note blocks. There's also a note block in the floor as well. And that is going to push one of these 4 blocks in the corners upwards. That will activate the observer in the corner, which will activate the dispenser above it. And it will also start to complete a redstone circuit, which is going to activate this repeater, switching off the redstone torch in the middle. So only when all 4 of the fires are lit and all 4 of these blocks have been pushed into position in front of these observers is the whole thing going to be complete, and the monument in the middle will open. So it's actually quite a neat system. So at the center of the jungle temple here is this monument, and from each of the 4 corners we actually have a staircase leading down. There are a couple of different designs of staircase. I've gone for a direct diagonal from these 2 in this opposing corner, and then this one here has 2 staircases that go down and kind of meet in the middle, or in this case they kind of diverge into this room, which I will explain in a second. But each of them is going to have a different challenge set up behind it, so there's a little bit of variety to what you experience when you explore this jungle temple. Let's take this one down here first, because this is the first one I ended up designing. You have 2 ways you can go at the bottom of this staircase, but if you track around to the right here, ignore the area where I've left this open so I can work on the redstone components and and stuff. If you come around to the right here, you find that this set of chiseled stone brick is blocking your way. And of course, the idea here is that we're not going to be just mining our way through these blocks. You could do if you wanted to, I guess, but if you come around here on the other side, you end up finding a lever which you can use to retract some sticky pistons in the walls, opening that out and allowing you through. These other chiseled stone brick blocks are also going to be here in the floor, and they are potentially going to be retractable as well. I'm just going to work on the redstone for that a little bit later, and now I've fallen through here, so give me an ender pearl so I can get back up to the top. There we go. Okay, so if you come down here all the way to the end of this corridor, you find a gold block. The idea is that there are going to be 4 gold blocks that you can collect throughout the exploration of this temple. Now, if we remove this gold block, we've triggered an observer, and the observer is going to send a signal to that central monument, lighting up one of the 4 fires. It's also going to activate a couple of traps that are going to be hidden in here once we have finished the walls of this place, and maybe we'll hide a tripwire somewhere in here as well, or have some sort of other motion sensing device that is going to activate a bunch of gravel dropping on you from the ceiling where there is space, because some of the design of the jungle temple here has meant that there is not a huge amount of space. But this is effectively the closest I could get to an Indiana Jones style running away from a boulder trap, where sort of sections of gravel are going to fall down from the ceiling as you head down through this corridor, and that's going to make it so that you kind of have to run towards the end here. However, once you get to the end here, this door is going to have closed again, and this section here has retracted. So basically, you try and make your way towards the door, you fall down. And falling is obviously one of the things that scares folks in Minecraft the most, because typically, if you fall straight down, chances are there is going to be lava at the bottom. Instead, I think what we're going to do is send people into another stage of the challenge, which is going to really be starting over here if you explore this challenge a different way. So if you end up coming down this other staircase here, the opposite corner from the one that we started with, you kind of end up in the same place, which is going to be down here at the very base of the temple, where I plan to make a pretty large parkour challenge. Now, that's going to take a little bit of development here, so I'm going to spend a bit of time digging this all out with a beacon so that we have a kind of lower floor, and then there are going to be a series of posts and things that you can hop around the room, Tomb Raider platforming challenge style, until you make it to another golden podium that's going to be in the center with another gold block for you to claim. That one is also going to activate another one of the fires up here at the top of the monument, and the idea is that you would return to this platform over here, and there would be water or maybe lava for you to fall into, depending on how you want to do this challenge, how ruthless you want to be. But I think if we want to make sure that players come away with the gold blocks, water seems like the sensible option. So that has lit each of these corner fires, that one there, and that one there. The other 2 are going to be triggered by a couple of other challenges, and I can't remember exactly which one it is. I think it might be this one over here that leads down to what we saw a minute ago. No, okay, that's the one I haven't worked on yet. I'm still working on what exactly that challenge is going to be. But this one here, in the opposite corner, leads down a couple of different staircases to this room. And as you might be able to tell from the floor pattern we have here, this one is a bit of a maze. So you can kind of start out over here and make your way around, and the idea is that the player is going to be clued into the fact that this is a maze. There is an iron door over here that cannot be opened from this side, unless of course you have a button, but that's kind of against the spirit of the game, I suppose. You enter through this section here, and you are taken on a bit of an exploration journey around these winding corridors. Now you can see there are note blocks in the ceiling here. I'm going to have to do my best to conceal the redstone components that are going to be activated by each of these challenges. And this might be a lesson to you guys. Never start building a maze until you've done the redstone first, because I will need to do a lot of remedial stuff just to make sure that I don't end up having all of the redstone components of this exposed and having players just be able to right-click a note block and get what they want. But anyway, this maze has taken me a little while to build and isn't really following any kind of structure. It certainly doesn't mirror the structure of the pattern on the floor over there. It's much more complex than that because we had a lot of room to work with here, and to be honest, I am finding myself getting lost walking around this thing anyway. You can just about tell from occasional bits of cobblestone and mossy cobblestone that you've found the outside wall of the jungle temple itself, and even then, those are liable to get you lost if you follow them, and I may even have included a couple of mossy bricks and things like that here and there, just to make sure that players get a little bit disoriented and lose their way inside the maze. But I think if we come through a few more of these twists and turns, we end up in a room that looks something like this. There we go. I found it, and we found our third gold block. We can remove that from the pedestal. That has an observer underneath it as well, but that is a benign observer that is just going to be triggering one of the 4 flames, of course. And then you make your way around these last few corners of the maze to this iron door with a pressure plate right in front of it, and you end up back in the lobby of the maze building and able to ascend the staircase once again. And the last one, of course, is going to be over here in this corner. And once again, I haven't quite decided what this is going to be. It might just end up being a series of corridors with some arrow traps that fire at you and that kind of stuff. But I think it's going to be a little bit of fun to work on that in the next little while. But before we end up finishing the redstone for each of these little challenge areas, I'm going to make sure I have the redstone wired up for the crucial part, which is this monument kind of monolithic pillar thing in the center itself. And once you have all 4 of those flames lit, what that does is slide down and reveal a chest in the center. I was going to make it a diamond block or something like that, but then I realized that if you mine the diamond block, it has a chance to go out into one of the 4 fires and be destroyed when it drops as an item, unless you end up extinguishing the flames before you do that. And especially since we're only moving 1 set of blocks here, chances are you wouldn't be able to step in and claim it unless you stepped in the fire for yourself. So probably a good idea to just include a chest in there or something like that. And we'll work on what the reward is in a second. But for now, I think I'm going to head away and do a little bit more work on the redstone, make sure all of that stuff is wired up properly, and I'll be back with you guys in a few seconds' time. Hey folks, welcome back. So I have a bit of a progress update for you. I have decided to change a couple of things around just for the purposes of space. So our little corridor puzzle around here is no longer going to be dropping gravel on people's heads. Instead, I have a slightly different system worked out for that. It's still the same entry mechanism. We walk around here, and now we end up on this trapdoor floor, which is potentially going to put the wind up anybody who has done puzzles like this in the past. But for now, it kind of provides almost like a rush mat feel, as though this has at one point had like a little walkway built through a little kind of like matted section. Anyway, when we remove the gold block, a few surprises are going to happen, and then this floor here is going to retract, and hopefully the plan is the fact that we're walking on these trapdoors is going to stop people from seeing exactly the fact that this opens up until the very last second, and maybe with that we can give that a try later. Maybe that will fool people enough to fall into the next trap. The next thing is I have now done a little bit more work. Where is the opposite side? There we go. I've done a little bit more work on the basement, which is slowly but surely turning into a kind of a fun parkour course. I've spent a lot of time flooding this entire thing out, and I'm a bit of a perfectionist when it comes to water sources, so I'm trying to make sure that a lot of this stuff is perfect looking water. Obviously, like stuff like this, all the flowing water, you get the noises and you get like these effects and stuff like that, and it may also give people the opportunity, if they land in the water, to float up onto some of these other blocks, which is something I want to make sure does not happen. But I've been slowly waterlogging the entire place, including all of the leaves and stuff down here, and if viewed from the top, leaves don't really have too much of that awful effect that makes it look like there is an air pocket underwater. So I think those are doing all right for now. So there is a little bit of an obstacle course to take on here, and parkour is really not my specialty. So if I absolutely fail at this, then that's, you know, probably how it's meant to be done anyway. But either way, you can hop onto this one here, and if you keep your momentum, you can actually hop onto the next jump a little bit easier. There are a couple of different techniques to this, so if we do that, yep, there we go, and I can hold shift to keep myself up on here. Next, we are jumping at a diagonal and moving up half a block onto that slab, which is actually kind of difficult, especially with the clearance in here. The headroom is not a lot to work with, so we can hopefully give that a try this time, and maybe we'll be successful. We've really got to jump at the last minute, and my elytra isn't helping, apparently. This time, though, yep, there we go. We made it perfectly fine that time. Now, this jump is actually doable, even though it looks a little bit weird. What you've really got to do is run down here, bounce off that bottom step, and then make it to that platform, which I was almost able to do. And you got to imagine that people are going to be playing this with or without wings, so maybe the elytra will give them a bit of an advantage if they want to just, like, float over to the next obstacle or something like that. But part of the trick here, of course, is making sure there isn't anywhere else they can jump from. I've made sure to keep all of these ledges over here at 2 blocks high so you can't get out of the water very easily. Likewise, whenever there are stairs in the water, I'm trying my best to make sure that it's not something that you can jump up onto the side there. Let's see if we can make that jump this time. Yeah, there we go. Made it handily that time. And a couple of slightly easier jumps take you over to this section, which I'm going to remove the trapdoor from. That's just how I've been getting up here if I need to. And then this walled section here has a couple of points that you can jump on, and then we're going to continue the course around the outside. My idea here is not to create the most difficult parkour course in the world. We're going to be doing a couple of thinner platforms using some of these trapdoors sort of lined up here just to make there a little bit more of like a balance beam kind of thing, make it a little bit more precarious to land on. But the goal here is to get them to an island somewhere in the center where we're going to have a gold block for them to collect, and then of course that's going to trigger the mechanism to light one of the fires further up in the temple once again. So it is really quite fun designing these things, and over there you will see is the drop that's going to land people in here. So we're actually going to make sure that this area here stays covered in water, and that way when people maybe fall into that trap in the other area up there, they're going to just land in the middle of this parkour course and presumably have to swim their way over to a section of the wall that they can climb up onto and then make their way out, whether they've completed this section or not. The maze has stayed pretty much the same, although I've had to make a couple of changes to adjust for some redstone in this level, because this level here now has a couple of really interesting traps, and this is going to be the last section. Oh, that's where the zombie is. I've been wondering where this zombie was for the last little while. Anyway, this is going to be the last section, which is going to be another corridor, and this is going to be the one that's going to drop gravel onto people. You'll notice if I can look around here, there you go, there are a bunch of gravel blocks up there on top of the wall, and basically we are going to conceal the mechanism by which we trigger those gravel blocks to fall underneath these trapdoors. Right there we have a redstone ore block which is going to be pushed into place once we've collected the gold block from over here, and then when you walk back down here, you're actually going to step on that redstone block, which is going to give it a block update, because redstone ore, when you step on it through a carpet or through trapdoors or anything that is less than a slab thick, actually starts to sparkle, which counts as a block update to be detected by an observer. And then the observer is going to be able to trigger some sort of mechanism which is going to, on a slow timer, release all of the gravel, allowing us to feel like we are running away from a boulder that is increasing its way down the passage here. That's the plan, at least. I'm still working on the redstone, and it's a little bit tricky to wire up, but the plan, at least, is to have a bunch of stuff that we can use as traps in a couple of these sections, and a couple more basic jumping puzzles and logic puzzles, that kind of thing. So hopefully this will be a fun experience when it's all said and done. I'll come back to you guys when we're all finished with it, and I will show you what it's like to run through this thing for the first time. All right, here we are back again and ready to give this thing a try. Now, let me tell you, the redstone inside of this thing, it's not good. It's a massive mess of spaghetti and wires going everywhere, but I'm pretty certain that for the most part, it is concealed, and that's part of the point of all of this stuff. It doesn't matter what it looks like on the inside with all of the spaghetti wiring and stuff, the presentation on the outside, the experience for the player, that right there is what matters. So hopefully this should be okay, and I'm playing through it for basically the first time, having tested everything and being fairly certain that this is all good. I'm not going to bring any blocks with me. I want to do this in the spirit of the obstacles that I have designed here. I am just going to set my spawn. There is nothing in here that will kill me, by the way, and you can certainly make some of these traps and things more punishing if you want players to have that kind of experience, but personally, don't really feel like dying and losing all my stuff in this, so I'm not going to cover the entire floor in lava or anything. Let's quickly get some sleep, and then in the morning, we should be able to go in and tackle the challenges of this jungle temple. All right, so let's climb up the steps, enter at the top, and here we are faced with our monument with the 4 flames that we have to light. I haven't left anything lit up here from my tests, so that is good. Let's tackle this one over here first. I can't actually remember which direction each one of these goes in. I think this leads down to the maze floor. Yes, there it is. Okay, so let's make our way through here. And you'll notice that a couple of the sections of the roof are hanging a little bit lower. That is really so I could conceal some redstone wire. Let's see, where are we going to end up over here? Looks like this way seems promising. Nope, a couple of dead ends. Okay, let's keep moving on around. And this maze actually goes all the way around the outside, really. Like, it doubles back on itself a couple of times. There are definitely a few spots where you can get turned around. I like the way this maze turned out. And I was thinking about the moment in Inception where one of the characters is asked to design a maze within a minute that it takes 2 minutes to complete, and this definitely feels like it took a while, and I shouldn't spend too long in here. The idea with this is it's a fairly balanced experience. I think this is the right way. Yeah, you can tell from the cobblestone and stuff in the walls. There we go. Our first gold block is complete. And I really didn't want many of these tasks to be something that you spent a super long time on. Otherwise, it could just get frustrating for players. We want to make sure it stays at a length that is somewhat fun. Oh, there's a section of the roof that I need to fill in. Better deal with that later. But we didn't see anything too revealing there, did we? Yeah, that might be a little bit too revealing. I'll have to come over and cover that with a slab later, but gold block number 1 is ours, and as we ascend the staircase, I can already hear the crackling of a fire. We have completed the task in this corner, and it's actually taken a lot of work just to make sure that the fires, when they light up, correspond to the corners with the tasks you've just finished, so I'm quite proud of that detail. Let's mosey on down here and see what we've got. Okay, couple of corridors. Oh no, this door is blocking my way. All right, I better double back and see if I can find the lever that opens it. Yep, there we go. And this is the corridor that I was talking about before, where I have changed a couple of things. We do have an exposed piston there. Once again, I'm going to have to cover that up a little bit. All right, gold block number 2 seems good. Oh no! Oh gosh! Oh, the arrows, they're firing at me. I have to dodge through those and make my way back to the exit. Oh, look at that. I've fallen into the parkour course at the bottom here, and those dispensers are just going to fire until they run out of arrows, unfortunately. All right, let me make my way to the start of this course, because we're going to have to tackle this. And this is the part of the video I've been dreading, folks, because this is honestly the part where I feel like this is going to take me the next hour. The parkour course is complete. It has a couple of areas where you could potentially skip things here and there. I'm not the best parkour designer, but even if you go back this way, it's not possible really to get over to that island without a couple of very nifty tricks. So let me do this the legit way where I can. Let's hop through this first section of the course here. Doesn't look like I can make it to much else around there. I've tried to design the wall so you can't just hop up onto it. Might have to take out a couple of the blocks over there. Let's hop up there. Nope, doesn't seem like I can make that jump today, apparently. There we go, made it that time. Hop down onto this wall, up onto the stair. Again, have to remove this trap door because that's really not an intended part of the course. And then we'll hop into the gap in this wall. Now, we could try and scope out the rest of this, but it doesn't look like there's anything I can really jump to from this wall. And yeah, I might have to put in some kind of timer mechanism to turn off the dispensers in the finished product. But hop, here we go onto this. We've got a couple of trapdoors floating in the air here. Bit of a balance beam challenge. Looks like I might be able to make it to that one, but I might do the safe route and hop onto that one first. Yep, there we go. And then I can just glide down using my elytra. A bit of a cheat there, but I don't mind too much. I put a couple of these trapdoors around that you can potentially open from a distance and use them as a little bit of an assist if you want to, but it really depends on your technique whether or not you're going to find that at all worthwhile. And yeah, that's a tricky jump. You kind of have to maintain your momentum through those jumps or just time it very, very well. And believe me, there is so much that can be done with a parkour course. This is really just the beginning, and there are so many different things. Like, advanced parkour players are shaking their heads at this going, what is this basic stuff? But I really just want to inspire folks' imaginations if you haven't considered doing an activity like this in Minecraft before. Like, I am by no means a parkour expert or anything. This is really my first time designing anything like this, and let's face it, in a single player world, you know, you're only fooling yourself. After a certain point, you're not necessarily going to find it all that challenging if you know the route around the course, but it is... Whoa, okay, I accidentally activated my elytra for that. That was a bit of a long jump. It looks like we can't really skip over here. Let's see if I can do the same thing over there. Nope, not going to be able to glide onto that one, unfortunately. Shouldn't really be doing this with elytra on anyway, but there you go. I'm going to open this up because sometimes that little bit of extra height provided by the trapdoor is just enough to trip me up. Yep, there we go. And from here, you can actually get up onto the trapdoor and see if you can jump to some of the closer obstacles here. The walls are a fun addition because their hitbox is actually higher than the block model might suggest. They are 1.5 blocks tall, so you get a little bit of extra height there. Same goes with this trapdoor as well. You could open that, but you can actually angle some of the trapdoors, so they aren't much of an assistance. Yes, there we go. Okay, we can make it over to the balance beam. This is basically the hardest part of the course over and done with, but you just got to watch that headroom because the ceiling will get you. Made it back to the balance beam. It's taken me a little while to get here, but hopefully with a hop, a skip, and a jump, yes, we've made it to that obstacle, and this is a slightly tricky part because we have to get around the steps from the outside, but I have given myself a couple of trapdoors there that you can hop onto. Last of all, we get onto there, and then finally we make the leap to the finishing platform. That has taken me about 20 minutes to complete all the way around because I had to keep going back because I kept falling at some of these trickier hurdles, but this one here, this gold block is in the ceiling, and when we take that out, there we go, it activates a note block tower behind there, and we can make our way with the victory lap through the last couple of obstacles back to the staircase, and hopefully, when we get back up to the top of these stairs, we should find that 2 extra fires have been lit. Oh no, did I not attach that one correctly? Oh dear, or maybe the flint and steel. Nope, the flint and steel hasn't burnt out. I just never hooked that one up correctly, it looks like. Oh well. Having taken a quick rummage through the innards here, I know exactly what's gone wrong. It's because the note block tower from that is supposed to activate this, but unfortunately, yeah, I didn't put a repeater here, which was going to power this block. And hopefully that shouldn't mess with any of the rest of the redstone we've got here. There we go. Okay, that should all have worked out fine, and hopefully we can make our way back around. First of all, here, so I can shut these darn dispensers up. There we go. I'll have to go and replace those in a second or two. There we go. Let's put this door back where it was. Well, with the redstone double-checked and triple-checked and hopefully in good order now, all I should need to do is head down this last set of stairs and grab our 4th gold block. Nothing could possibly go wrong now, right? We're at the home stretch. Oh! Careful for the trapdoors. Looks like nothing bad is happening if I step on those. Very good. You'll find out why in a second. Now, if I grab... Oh, that sounds like something triggered there. Okay. Hallway looks clear, though. No arrow traps or anything like that. But, oh no, if I step on those trapdoors... Ah, there it is. There's our Indiana Jones boulder chase. And I had to turn around so you guys could see that because I worked on the timing for that for absolutely ages. And I'm super happy with the way it worked out. But now, as you can see... All 4 of the fires are lit. We've completed the challenges. We've got our 4 gold blocks. The chest in the center of the monument is revealed, and we can claim our prize. How great is that? All right. Well, that was quite the adventure, and I really like the way a lot of this stuff comes together. I'm gonna show you some of the redstone, and again, forgive me, the redstone in here is pretty darn terrible. So what we've got in the back end of this is everything wired up to this central section, which apparently has a creeper in it. Hello? Get out of here, you. He's not part of the plan. The plan is basically every time you take out one of these gold blocks, it has an observer underneath it, which ends up triggering one of these observers powering a note block, which pushes this block up, completing the redstone circuit. We saw that earlier in the video. What you didn't see is all of the wiring crisscrossing all over the temple to get back to this central point, because it is a bit of a nightmare to do it any other way, unfortunately. But this right here is the timing circuit for all of the gravel dropping, and it is basically a comparator decay clock down here. You can see it kind of there down there at the end, and I can go into spectator mode to show you a little bit better. So the comparators facing inwards and outwards here are basically forming a decay clock, and what happens when you trigger that is that the signal to all of these repeaters, which are firing the pistons here and keeping those held in place, slowly starts to decay. And when that happens, the signal actually travels along the line, getting dimmer and dimmer, and you can't put any repeaters anywhere in this because otherwise it just all happens at once. But the same is true of the other side. These 3 comparators end up transferring the signal to the rest of these repeaters, and then once you flip a switch, you're able to basically turn off the signal slowly, activating or deactivating rather each piston in turn and dropping all of the gravel from this space. And I could not do this in any other space. I tried doing it over here. This is all the circuitry for the kind of 2-way switch for the door that drops you down into the parkour challenge. That took a little bit of wiring, and it simply wasn't possible to drop the gravel on anybody in that area. So I had to kind of improvise and use this passage for it instead. But the gravel is all kind of stuck in there. And yeah, I'm really, really happy happy with the way this turned out. I think it went splendidly well. And here we are back in survival, and we've claimed our prize of 3 diamond blocks, which were really just out of my beacon box, but I love the fact that we could have a prize in the center of this as part of the adventure. And I mentioned that I was planning on trapping the emerald blocks up there as well. Basically, all I was thinking about doing there, a very simple trap instead, was if people were pillaring up towards those emerald blocks to get them, there could be an observer behind that and a dispenser facing downwards, and if they tried pillaring up, they would find their feet surrounded by lava when they tried to come back down. Imagine a dispenser of lava just concealed behind that emerald block, which I didn't get a chance to go and grab today because I'm not sure where any lava is around here, and apparently the mobs aren't really going to help me with that. So that's going to be it for this little exercise in trap building and mini games here at the Jungle Temple. I hope you guys enjoyed this episode. It was a lot of effort for me. This is not the kind of thing I typically do, so I don't have a huge amount of experience with it, but I think we managed to pull it off pretty well, and I have my reward of my diamond and gold blocks here. Thank you so much for watching this episode. My name has been Pixlriffs. Don't forget to leave a like on the episode if you enjoyed it, subscribe if you want to see more, and I'll see you guys soon. Take care. Bye for now.